We are here to present a capstone project, credit card fraud detection. Myself Neha from CSA department.
Myself Darshan Gowda, I am from EC department.
Introduction. In the increasingly digital world, the convenience and the universality credit card has brought has revolutionized the way we transact. As we know, every evolution comes with a ever-growing threat. So, credit card fraud detection, credit card fraud is the threat that comes with credit card universality. So, it affects the machine learning and data analysis techniques. So, the problem statement. The increasing prevalence of the credit card fraud detection possesses a substantial threat to the financial institution, card holders, and overall security of the digital transaction. So the project aims to develop an advanced credit card system that solves these issues effectively. The primary problem that is addressed here is to separate the data into legitimate and the fraud transactions in real time. So minimizing the false positives and negatives. This project seeks to tackle several key challenges, including the rapid evolution of fraud tactics, even the data privacy and security. So how does it work? The credit card fraud detection project, we anticipate to implementing the machine learning model to analyze the transaction data and we foresee high level of accuracy and efficiency in identifying the potential fraud, thereby enhancing the security and trust of the credit card users. Through the ongoing model refinement and continuous data analysis, we aim to stay ahead of emerging fraud trends and provide a reliable solution for the credit card fraud. So the libraries used, these are some of the basic libraries used in the project. Streamlit to create a web application, Matplotlib for interactive visualization, NumPy for numerical data and calculations, Pandas for analyzing data manipulation and analysis. And here are some libraries which are used for the selection of the model, like train test split, which is used to split the data set into train and test, logistic regression to implement the logistic regression model, accuracy score to predict the accuracy of the classification model, the k-nearest neighbor classifier to implement the KNN algorithm, SVC to implement the SVC algorithm, label encoder and sklearn pre-processing are used for encoding categorical data into numerical values. So we have used basically three algorithms: logistic regression, SVM and KNN. The first one is logistic regression. Logistic regression plays a vital role in the credit card fraud detection. It works by analyzing the transaction data to assess the probability of transaction being fraudulent. This algorithm basically classifies the transaction into two main categories: legitimate and fraudulent. It uses the historical data to establish mathematical relationship between the other features such as the purchase amount, location, time to make the determination. By fitting this logistic curve to the data, it calculates the fraudulent occurrence. If it exceeds a threshold value, then the transaction is flagged to be fraud, else it is flagged as a legitimate transaction. Logistic regression is the key component in building the efficient and accurate fraud detection model. Second one is SVM, support vector machines. It is also a model used in the credit card fraud detection, where it also classifies the transaction as legitimate or the fraudulent transaction. Here it creates a hyperplane that optimally separates the two classes based on the transaction features like amount, location, etc. The hyperplane maximizes the margin between the classes, ensuring that it is against the outliers and can generalize the new data. SVM is effective because it can handle high dimension data, especially for identifying complex and non-linear patterns.
KNN is a machine learning algorithm used in credit card fraud detection. As we know that it mainly depends on how much the near it is fraudulent or legitimate transaction is used to find the credit card fraud detection. Then data set. As you know, the main importance of this model is we need to get the data set to perform the new prediction based on it. In this data set, we have step. This column represents the time step and time stamp associated with each transaction. It could be a sequential number or a time related identifier. Next is type. This column represents the type of transaction like credit, debit, transfer, etc. And amount in this column it represents the monetary amount involved in the transaction in name or it. This column represents the originator's name or identifier of the transactions. It could be an account holder's name or a unique identifier associated with the senders of the funds. Old balance or this column likely represents the account balance before the transaction or on the originator's side. It's the initial account balance of the person or entity sending the funds to the receiver. New balance or this column represents the account balance after the transaction completed by the originator sides. Then named destination. This column represents the destination name or the identifier of the transaction. It could be an account holder's name or unique identifier associated with the receivers of the funds. Old balance this column represents the amount balance before the transaction on the recipient side. It's the initial account balance of the persons or entity receiving the funds. New balance this column represents the account balance after the transaction on the recipient side. It's the updated account balance of the receiver after the transaction has been processed. Is fraud. It's a binary indicator whether the fraudulent is activity. It's showed as 1 and not is as showed as 0. Is flagged fraud. This column indicate whether the transaction was flagged as potentially fraudulent or not. Transaction can be flagged if they meet specific criteria or thresholds that suggest possible fraudulent activities. Algorithms. We use a train test split from sklearn model, then logistic regression from sklearn linear model, and SVM from sklearn SVM, standard scaler from sklearn pre-processing, k-neighbors classifier from sklearn neighbors, accuracy score, classification report, confusion matrix, precision score, recall score, F1 score from sklearn matrix. Advantages: we can prevent the fraud prevention and cost savings, enhanced customer trust, real-time detection of the frauds, and reduced false positive in the columns. Adaptability: machine learning and AI-based systems can adapt to new fraud patterns and techniques, making it harder for fraudsters to outsmart the system with changing tactics. Data analysis: we can analyze a large amount of data to get to whether it is a fraud or legitimate, with transaction data enabling financial institutions. Regulatory compliance: meeting regulatory requirements for security and data protection is essential in the financial industries. Reduced operational cost: automation of fraud detection processes reduce the need for manual review. Global reach: these systems are capable of monitoring transactions worldwide, making them suitable for international transaction, e-commerce, and global financial services. Scalability: as transaction volume increases, fraud detection system can be scaled to handle the additional load, making them suitable for larger financial institutions. Thank you. This is the code for our model. First, we need to import all the libraries we are using in it, and after that, in the streamlit, we are giving the title as a credit card fraud detection model. Then we are importing a JPG file. After that, we are giving the sidebar, app description, and welcoming the users. Then we are reading the CSV file. After this, we are encoding the non-numeric columns to numbers. The non-numeric columns are type, name origin, and name destination. For column and category of columns, we need to convert the encoder of the above columns. Then the registered and fraud as is detected as 0 and 1. We are performing the class balance of whether it is of undersampling and oversampling, and then we are splitting the data to training and testing the data sets. We are creating a sidebar section to get the model selection, and with the select classification model and hyperparameters. The model selection are logistic regression, SVM and KNN. We are used in it. In model selection, we are giving logistic regression, SVM and KNN. After this, hyperparameter selection. In hyperparameter selection, we are giving the first to tune the hyperparameter. We are giving the sidebar slider for logistic regression from 1 to 100, and for SVM we are giving from 1 to 100, and for KNN we are giving from 1 to 50. We are training the models from for the data set. After this, we are getting the model performances, and to create new input feeds for the user to enter feature values. X columns and feature names are given in the web page. After that, submit. If the transaction is legitimate transaction, it will give a green color legitimate transaction in caption, and after that it will give a emoji. If it is a fraud, it will give an fraudulent transaction with a red color, and it gives a price signal. After this, we are making a model comparison between the logistic regression, SVM and KNN models. These are the following features to check if the transaction is legitimate or fraudulent. This is the first step, and step means we are giving the timings or any steps which is 0 to 1. Then entering the type and entering the amount of how much they have sent it or they have received, and enter the name origin. As I told, name origin means it is a it's an recipient originator name or a unique identifier names. Here the test set size is referred from 0.2 to 0.40, which is the 20% to 40% we are training the details. After this, then we can select the classification model like logistic regression and SVM and KNN models. And we can tune the hyperparameters by clicking the sidebar and show the model comparison. This is the model comparison shown for the 20% of the test data used in it. The prediction value shows the fraudulent transaction as we have given the input as all the columns as 0. It will show fraudulent transaction with the cry symbol. When you give the input for any 2 to 3 of them,